Welcome back, guys, to the basement, where you know that means we're gonna do another session of track tips. Today I want to talk about burnouts. I'm pretty sure everyone can agree that burnouts are like one of the best parts of drag racing. Cars are loud, there's smoke rolling out, the smell of rubber. Burnouts can also make some of the best pictures and videos, I think, at the drag strip. But the burnout plays a very important role in actually preparing for your race too. So today I want to talk about three main things: the purpose of a burnout, an actual proper burnout procedure, as well as actually diving into my burnout process. Now, it's important to note that I drive a dragster, so some of this content will actually have a little bit of a dragster flavor to it, but I think there's a lot of good content in here that can be applied to the door cars too, so stick around. So the purpose of a burnout is very, very simple. Clean the tires, heat the tires, look really cool doing it. Just kidding, that's not one of them. And to actually prepare the track sometimes in certain situations. So the burnout technique is actually where it gets a little bit more complicated because there's a couple different variables that you need to consider when you kind of decide how you're gonna do your burnout. A couple of them might be the track temperature, it could be the track conditions currently, and it also could be your actual car setup. I believe that a lot of people actually overdo it on their burnouts. Why wouldn't you? They're a lot of fun, right? But it actually could be quite a bit harder on your equipment, and obviously you're going to use up tires a lot faster if you're overdoing it on the burnout. So that actually brings me to the burnout itself and how long you should really be doing a burnout. So Mickey Thompson says that in general, a minimal burnout is required to maximize performance. So what they mean by that is that you should be doing the smallest burnout that you can get away with that still matches up with the track conditions that you have. So hotter tracks are gonna require smaller burnouts, and cooler tracks require bigger burnouts, get more heat in your tires, but you don't wanna overdo your burnout. So excessive burnout is actually gonna melt the shoulder area of your tire a little bit too much and actually hurt your traction and hurt your tire performance on the starting line. The other main thing to think about is the actual style of burnout that you're gonna do. So like dragsters are required, they don't have line locks, so they're required to do like this roll through style burnout. But I seldom times see door cars actually doing this style of burnout. A lot of times I kind of wonder why, but probably because, you know, some different types of cars require a longer burnout to get the same amount of heat in the tires. But nonetheless, you should always be doing a burnout where you're actually rolling out of the water, at least 5 to 10 feet out of the water with your tires still spinning. You want to do this so that you're getting your car to that cleaner section of the track surface, right? So you don't want to be back in the water and end your burnout. The other thing is that you want to make sure that you're kind of rolling forward and you feather off of the throttle as you're exiting your burnout. That's going to help to minimize that tire chirp that can happen when your tires suddenly grab on the sticky track surface and it gives a little chirp. That little chirp is not only bad for your equipment because of excessive vibration, but it's also bad because it'll actually scuff the surface of the tire, and that's bad for traction as well. ATI actually recommends this following burnout procedure here. They say to start your burnout in the highest gear that you can easily spin your tires in to try and minimize the number of shifts that you need to do, and then to start your burnout really slow speed. You want to do that so that you're not splashing a bunch of water like into the wheel wells of your car or maybe on the bottom of your car. You don't want water drips all over your car. So start with a really slow speed and continue to do your burnout in the water box until you have enough heat in your tires, whatever you decide is enough heat in your tires. Release the line lock, roll forward that 5 to 10 feet out of the water onto the cleaner track surface, release the throttle, feather it back so that you're not going to chirp the tires and scuff the surface of your tires. And the last thing you want to do is stage immediately after that. ATI doesn't recommend that you do any dry hops or anything else. They want you to stage right after you do your burnout. They say that any remaining water on your tire or anything like that's going to be far dry by the time the green light actually comes on. And doing those dry hops is the same thing as scuffing the tires with the chirp. It's actually going to hurt your traction and hurt your consistency off the line. So stage immediately after your burnout. So there's just some tips about proper burnout procedure. Now I'd kind of like to dive in to what I actually do when doing a burnout. So I drive a dragster, like I mentioned, so I do this roll through method. I don't have a line lock, so I'm just kind of gunning the throttle in high gear after I roll through the water. wouldn't say that I do an excessively long burnout. I do adjust the length of my burnout a little bit from time to time. If there's a really, really hot track, then I probably don't do that big a burnout. If there's a really, really cold track, I'll probably do a little bit more burnout because I have to get the heat in the tires somehow. But there's definitely people out there that are doing way, way longer burnouts than me, but there's a few that are doing quite a bit shorter than me too, I would say. The tire chirp issue is actually a real big problem for me, especially on a well-prepped track. Sometimes on a really, really well-prepped track, it's almost impossible to not have some of that tire chirp. You really have to know when you're getting to that really sticky part of the track, and you really have to be careful how you're feathering off of the throttle to try and minimize that chirping effect at the end of your burnout. And for me, it's a little bit harder because I don't have a crazy amount of horsepower, so sometimes that tire wants to grab a little bit sooner than maybe somebody who has more horsepower, and it just wants to spin a little bit longer. So if I notice something weird on the starting line, or if they did like a little bit of a cleanup in front of me, I might actually try to burn through the lights so that I can end up staging on my own fresh rubber. But when I want to do that, I don't do it by doing a longer burnout. I try to actually move the position of my burnout on the track. So what I mean by that is I might not start my burnout in the same spot that I normally do. I might roll a little bit more forward before starting the burnout, or I could maybe do my burnout with a little bit faster roll, if you know what I mean. So I cover a little bit more distance, but I'm not actually spinning the tires any longer than normal. One other thing that you guys might notice about my burnouts is that after the burnout is complete, I actually stab the brakes pretty hard. So what I try to do is minimize the distance that my tires are rolling between completing the burnout and staging the car. So after I'm done with the burnout, I hit the brakes pretty hard. I don't want to roll extra far out onto the track surface or anything like that, because I really want to minimize the potential of picking anything up off the track, or more little tiny rocks or cotton seeds or whatever is out on the track, contaminants. I don't want any of that stuff on my tires. So I really try to minimize it. After the burnout, I pretty much dynamite the brakes. I don't want to roll out there any farther. And then I back up very, very slowly. Some people are like, why is he backing up so stinking slow? Well, I'm being very, very careful when I back up. I'm trying to be really, really straight in the groove on the track, straight pointed down the track, because I want to back up and not have to back up any further than just turning off the pre-stage beam, basically. Because of the same reason, I don't want to back up past the starting line, on the burnout side any further than I have to, just because I'm really trying to minimize any contaminants that could get at my tires. The optimum situation in my mind is I do a burnout, feather off the throttle, no chirp, dynamite the brakes, boom, stop right in front of the pre-stage bulb. That's really difficult to do, and it's really difficult to get right, but that's the ultimate goal for me most of the time, unless I'm trying to burn through the lights for some other reason. So the main takeaway on that one is minimize the distance your tires roll between burnout and staging the car. That's gonna do it for this episode of Track Tips. Hopefully you guys learned something. Let me know down in the comments. Did I miss something? What do you guys do in your burnout process? I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comments. Until next time though, thank you guys for liking, commenting, subscribing, all the things. Later.